Hey guys, welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about how to upstage your designer. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to talk about how to improve all your apps with animations. If we think of building apps like cooking, then animations are like salt. Absolutely crucial in almost all dishes, but the amount is even more crucial. You do not want to overdo it. Overdoing it is possibly worse than underdoing it. In order to really dive deep into animations, we're going to build a simple app with 3 buttons at the top. When you tap those buttons, they'll move to the bottom and vice versa. Each one will have a different easing function applied to it, starting with ease in, then ease out, and then ease in out, and that'll give us the opportunity to take a look at the differences in those and how they look and feel. And then we're going to move on to the thing I'm really excited about with animations, and that's spring dampening. And that allows you to make things animate instead of like this. So they kind of bounce in at the end like a spring, which is really fun. It really makes your app feel alive. But again, that's something that you really don't want to use too much of, and you want to make sure you use it in the right place. In order to animate these balls, we're actually going to animate the constraint. So back in the day, before Interface Builder integrated AutoLayout, in order to animate views, you had to animate the frames, which is, let's just say, less than ideal. But now that we have layout constraints, say for example, the ball is at the top of the view, and you want to constrain it to within, let's say, 20 pixels from the top, we can attach a referencing outlet to that constraint, to that margin essentially, and we can change that value in code programmatically. So we're going to build an app with 3 buttons, add constraints to the top, attach referencing outlets to those constraints, and then animate them in code when the button is pressed. Ready to get started? Let's go. We'll start by creating a new Xcode project. Single view app as usual should be fine. Go ahead and name it whatever you like. We'll start in the storyboard. We need 3 buttons. Let's set some constraints on this button for the size. It'll be constrained to the top by 20 pixels, the left by 20 pixels, and its height will be 100 and its width will be 100. Let's remove the title, give it a background color that we can work with. And now let's clone it. I'm going to hold down the Alt key while I click and drag. Now you notice we have these red lines. That's because it doesn't have constraints for the top and left, I'm pretty sure. If we look here, it'll tell us exactly. Yes, it needs constraint for the X and Y. So for the X, for this middle one, we will constrain it to the center. And for the Y, right click and drag top space to save area. Let's set the background color to yellow for this one. And we'll clone it one more time. Constrain it to the right hand side. I'm just right clicking and dragging out. Trailing space is right hand side. Do the same thing on the top space. And we will change this to blue. Alright, this is a nice poppy color palette. I like it. So that's about it, except we need to wire up some constraints. Well, we need to wire up some other things. So I'm going to open the storyboard in the assistant editor. My favorite way to do that is with Command-Shift-O. Then you can type any file in the project and it will autocomplete. Type view for view controller and hold down Alt while you hit enter. And now that file is in the assistant editor. Another way to do that if you want is just to go up here, use this button which opens the assistant editor, and it takes a best guess at what file you want, and in this case it's right. So let's wire up the buttons because we're going to have to tweak those a bit. So pink button, right click drag will become ball pink, yellow will become ball yellow, blue will become ball blue. I like to name things like this because if at any time you're not sure what the element you want to reference is, you just type ball and then autocomplete is going to automatically show you. Like for example, if I'm in here and I do self.ball, it's going to show me all the balls I have. Okay, now we need to wire up those constraints. So we're going to grab this top constraint, select it, right click, new referencing outlet, just like it's any other element, and this will be ball pink top layout constraint. Now for the yellow one, grab that constraint, drag it in, and we will call this ball yellow top layout constraint. Is my keyboard loud enough for you? Finally the blue, That pretty much takes care of the layout. I think we can close that now. We'll go right into the view controller class. Anytime you have the assistant editor open and you want to close it, just hold down Command and hit Enter. Okay, let's go ahead and load this real quick just to see what we're dealing with. Okay, not bad. Let's turn these into circles. I'm going to show you a trick for that. Self.ball pink layer.corner radius equals corner radius is exactly what it sounds like, the radius of the corner if it's rounded, and we will set that radius to half the width of the view itself. So that will be self.ball pink.frame.size.width over 2.0. Now just repeat this for the other two buttons. Let's take a look at that. All right, that looks great. When you tap these, we want them to animate down to the bottom of the screen. So let's do that. We need a touch up inside method, and we need to go back to the storyboard for that. Right click, drag a touch up inside action in here, and we'll call this ball tap. And we're going to wire all the buttons up to that same function. Okay, good. Close the assistant editor. We are going to start with a simple UIView animate time interval. We'll set to half a second. What we're going to do here is we are going to grab the constraint for whichever button is pressed. For now, we'll just focus on the pink button, and we'll change that constant. So self.ball pink top layout constraint.constant. It starts at 20, and now we want it to be 20 from the bottom of the screen. And we will do that by grabbing a reference to the views frame, the height, and we will subtract the height of the button dot frame dot size dot height, and also add a little bit of margin. Try tapping it. So that position is pretty good, but it sure didn't animate. And why didn't it animate? Well, we forgot to call self.viewLayout if needed. And that is just kind of a magic function call that you need to add in here if you want it to actually animate. All right, so there's a very simple animation. It's all animating the pink one, so we need to distinguish it so it grabs the button that's actually tapped. How do we do that? Okay. Well, it's passing us the button here as this any object, so we'll just cast it real quick. That button equal sender as UI button. Problem is, when the button is tapped, we need to get a reference to the right constraint, and these constraints aren't really wired to the button. They live independently. If you look in the storyboard at these constraints, the only constraints that actually live on the ball or the button are the width and height. These other ones live on the view. Okay, so we're going to make a lookup that will help us with this. We'll call it the ball lookup. Ball lookup. We'll use the button itself as a key that will return the constraint and the function. And to define the constraint and the function, we're going to use a new data type we haven't used before called a tuple. A tuple is a lot like a dictionary, except it's more fixed. So once you define it, you can't really change what goes in and what comes out. This will be an layout constraint, and function is a UIView animation options. And you'll notice that we don't have to wrap these in quotes like we would if it was a dictionary. We'll grab the info out of the lookup. Ball lookup. See how we pass the button in, and that's going to return one of these. Oh, but first we need to make sure we initialize this, so don't forget to do that. Ball pink, ball out, ball blue. Because this one is ball pink, function we'll use will be these in. This will be out. Change this to yellow. This will be easy out. Okay, we have our info here. Now we need to do something with it. Let's grab the constraint associated with it, and that's info.constraint. And let easing function equal info.function. We'll grab the new constant here, which will be we'll just grab it out here. And we'll replace this with constraint because again, that could be either the pink, the yellow, or the blue constraint. And set the new constant. And success. Now we're animating all the buttons. But they don't move back to where they are, and that's kind of annoying because to keep testing this, we would have to keep killing the app and relaunching it, and I don't want to do that. So instead, let's add the ability to toggle. Store the top constant, and we'll create a bottom constant. Top constant is a CG float. All right, those are there, and down here we'll assign those. And we'll change this magic 20 to the top constant. So that means whatever the top constant is that was set in storyboard, we are going to honor that as our top constant here. And we're also going to use that amount as our bottom margin, which is what we're doing here. In here, we'll check what the existing constant is, and then grab the other one based on that. So if constraint.constant is equal to the top constant, meaning it hasn't been changed, then the new constant becomes the bottom constant. Otherwise, the new constant is the top constant. This is the same as doing, assuming this was a var and not a constant, then this is exactly the same as this. This is called a ternary operator. Actually refers to these two parts here. Just shorthand for if else. All right. Excellent. Okay, so they're moving back and forth, but they're all using the exact same animation. Look at this. This is a linear easing function. A linear easing function. See how it just moves at a constant speed? It starts at the same speed that it stops. Very boring. Now we'll add support for those easing functions. As you can see, the easing function isn't even being used yet. And to do that, we have to change the UIView animate call we use to this one. Animation duration, delay 0, options. This is where we pass in the easing function. This could be .linear, curve linear. That's the default. That's what we saw already. It could be ease, curve, ease in, ease out, ease in. So these are the three we're testing here. We're just doing it dynamically. So that's why we pass in our variable. Okay, let's test this out now. So this is ease in. This is ease out. And this is ease in, out. And they return back to the bottom, to the top with their same function. So this is ease in. See how abruptly it stops? So it starts smooth. It accelerates smoothly, and then it just stops at the end. This will be the opposite. It abruptly starts, but then slowly stops. Comes to a smooth stop, but starts really dramatically. Blue, it'll be a combination of the both. It'll slowly start and slowly stop. Great. Slow start, hard stop. Hard start, slow stop. Slow start, slow stop. Okay, now let's do my favorite part, which is the spring damping. I love this. This is where it really comes to life. Okay, again, we need a new function here. We need more attributes in here. Actually, I think I can just sneak them in here with using spring damping. But we don't want these magic numbers in there. So let's create spring damping and initial velocity. Good. That should do it. Let's run this. What? What's the problem? Oh, these need to be CG floats. Woohoo! Oh, I love that. What do you think? Isn't that so much more fun? So let's try changing spring damping here to 0.1 and see how that changes things. Do you see what happened there? It goes much further outside, and then it still ends kind of abruptly. I can't say I love that. These are pretty good settings. 0.5 for spring damping and initial velocity of 0.2. Just for fun, let's change this to 0.1. See what we get. It should be a lot more wild. Yeah, that looks crazy. Let's move this back to 0.5 because that's where it looked good to me. All right, well, there you have it. mean, that just feels so much more alive to me. Feels awesome. I'm really happy with that. I think we learned something really valuable here today. I hope you feel the same way. If you like this video, you know the drill. Thanks for watching. See you next time.